All right, thank you very much. I am Leonardo Villalobos-Arias, and I'm going to be presenting to you today Minding Motivation, the effect of intrinsic motivation on agent behaviors. So within reinforcement learning, traditional reinforcement learning techniques often struggle to learn in environments with sparse rewards. That is, those environments that require long sequences of specific actions to reach a non-zero reward. To improve this, we can augment the agent with intrinsic rewards. These intrinsic rewards are reward functions that often encourage behavior like exploration by giving additional reward to for like visiting things like unseen states. This, however, comes with a couple of side effects. The main one for us being reward hacking, where the agent learns a suboptimal policy due to the additional reward. An example of this is in the figure to the right, which is the final policy found by an intrinsic motivation agent. The optimal path in this mini-grid environment is the path to the top and then to the right side of the of the grid, but the agent, due to the intrinsic rewards, will often take suboptimal paths in some percentage of the time. Another problem is the noisy TV problem, in which the intrinsic rewards distract the agent from completing its task. And in addition to these, although we know of these issues, there's not a lot of empirical evidence on how specifically intrinsic motivation impacts the non-reward aspects of the agent, such as how they behave and how fast they learn. So in this study, we evaluated the impact of three different intrinsic motivation techniques on agent behavior in the mini-grid game-like environment. The protocol for this evaluation was we picked three intrinsic motivation rewards: state counting, which simply gives a reward inversely proportional to the number of times a state has been visited; max entropy, which enhances the reward with the agent entropy; and ICM, which is a curiosity-based method that rewards the agent when something unexpected happens. We prove these techniques with and without GRM, and GRM is a technique for preservation of optimality that will discount the intrinsic reward in the next time step to kind of counteract these issues. We measure these agents in terms of their episodic returns, as well as in their exploration in terms of position coverage. We also perform visual behavior analysis and measure how they diverge from a baseline agent with no intrinsic motivation. Our base agent uses PPO and is trained for about 20 million steps in 4 mini-grid maps. These are the 4 mini-grid maps we are going to be using for our evaluation. And we here have most of them are different kind of tasks, but the most important thing is they don't really require intrinsic rewards, so our baseline agent will be able to learn. The results in terms of rewards for these experiments is we found that, generally speaking, the intrinsic motivation agents did alter the average reward obtained by the agent, although in most cases this was an increase, so they got higher rewards. Intrinsic motivation models also generally perform better for this reason, so they were more often able to converge and learn the final policy, except in 4 rooms where most of the agents actually get distracted by the intrinsic reward. So they don't really reach the goal that often. And most studies would stop here, like most evaluations will stop here and say their methods are better, but we think rewards not telling here the full story of what happens with the agent. So next we look at the behavior patterns that emerge from visualizing the policies. So these heat maps display some of the patterns that we see. The first one being and confirming that intrinsic motivation does alter the final policy of the agent. So in the case of non-intrinsic motivation here, we can see the agent mostly moves between rooms and does little exploration within each room. And the opposite is true for the true intrinsic motivation methods, which tend to overstay and overexplore on the rooms. And for this reason, they visit the goal tile list frequently. We also found that in some cases, GRM preserves the behavior of the original policy, counteracting the side effect of intrinsic motivation. So in this example, state count is changing the behavior with respect to non-intrinsic motivation by doing some more movement around the key on the bottom. And by applying GRM, which is our optimality preserving technique, we are able to counteract that and have a behavior that most similarly resembles the original agent. The highlights of this study is we characterized the three different agents according to their behavior. So state count, it does favor like dot homogeneous state exploration. Max entropy instead encourages the agent to stay near walls where they can be more certain of the outcomes. ICM offers a balanced approach. We also found that state count and ICM increase both exploration and reward, although they still get distracted in forums. GRM also helped improve the performance and had behavior more similar to the baseline. For future experiments, we'll be looking at a better baseline policy as well as applying this to the entire learning environment. And for a general recommendation, we recommend state count with GRM or ICM with GRM. Would you be interested in enhancing agent exploration? Thank you so much for your attention. I don't know if we have time for questions, but if you have any, here's my email in case you want to discuss. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have maybe one quick question for the speaker? Okay, well, nothing, but okay, I will ask you the question then. So for your work here, so you said you're going to apply this to the Atari learning environment next. Do you see the challenges involved with that?
Yes, the main challenge is indeed getting an optimal policy for those games because they are, well, very complicated games. We cannot for sure tell what is the optimal policy in these cases. For mini-grid, we can know the shortest path. We can use a technique such as A star to calculate that. But for Atari, we would need to somehow have a method of getting that optimal policy, which I see as a big challenge.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Let's give a round of applause for all the speakers.